learning through a number of different lists of things that are found in the writings of Rabbi Mordechai Yosef Lehner. Rabbi Mordechai Yosef lived from 1801 to 1854. He was the founder of the dynasty of Ishbitz Radzin. He's known generally as the Ishbitzer. And if you can spell the name of this town, Ishbitz, you get a prize. It's spelled in every possible way you can imagine. His major work, in fact, his only work is called the Mei HaShiloach, the waters of the Siloam pool. And in this, he has a number of lists. He has quite a few lists of things that he's listed. And what I see him doing is taking lists of things that he has an expectation you would know off by heart, and saying, connect with them lessons that you can learn for your life. So we did the 8 garments that the high priest wore, and that is, you are the high priest of your own life. You put on 8 particular metaphorical garments, each representing different things that you should be doing in your life, and you thereby remind yourself how to be a better person, and you work on improving yourself. So here we're in the story of Noah and the flood, and it's another 8 things. The next one we'll do, I think, will be 12. So we'll change things slightly. I knew I had this somewhere, but I'm not entirely sure where things are. I'm very mildly disoriented. Yeah, so we have here a list of 8 key words that Rabbi Mordechai Yosef focuses on in the story of Noah and the flood, and they're in Genesis chapter 6, Sefer Bereshit, Perek Vav, and the verse numbers are 14, 15, and 16. So the expectation is you learn these a couple of verses off by heart, because you already know the story very, very well. And then you have this list of things to do with making and building the ark. And he is telling you in this how to navigate the stormy waters of life. In Zohar and in the writings of the Hasidic masters, the waters, the oceans, are to do with passion, lust, temptations, right? And we're not going to get into all the astrology thing. I think we may actually do that next time, if there is an interest. And even if there isn't, we'll try it. And if you get bored with it, we'll switch to something else, right? Here we're looking at these 3 verses, and the list is very simple. If you have the handout in front of you, it's the very first page.
You have any more?
I have loads of them, yeah. I have loads and loads of them. If you would like a handout and you're watching us online, give us a call. We used to say that sort of thing in the distant past, right? Connect with us through the Yiboneh website, and we'll happily send you a PDF of all of this. The text itself is, as a whole, is available in English. There's an English translation of the book, but I have translated this particular teaching specifically geared towards our learning this list of 8 things. So what he does is a good deal simpler than we had with the previous setup and the 8 garments. There are 8 things connected with the building of the ark and God's instructions to Noah building the ark. We'll take a very, very zippity-zip review of those. That's page number 1. The ark is made of gopher wood, and that tells us that we should have no visible anger. Don't put your anger out there. Keep it within yourself. Number 2, the ark had kinim, it had compartments, cabins. That means you should keep faith. You should be calm. You should know where everything is. Everything has its proper place in this world. The chafarta, you shall cover the ark with tar or with pitch. Uproot anger from your life. So two of these things are to do with anger. And I think we know from life as a whole that anger is one of the big issues, one of the big problems that many of us face, or we see. I mean, we're good people, we don't get angry very much, but we do see other people ruining their lives with anger. Number 1 is to restrain your anger. Number 2 is to uproot it completely if that's humanly possible. The next one, number 4, is the dimensions of the ark, and that's a mistake on the first page. The dimensions of the ark in Hebrew numerals spell out the word Lashon, Lamed Shin Nun, meaning speak only truth. The ark that will get you through life, its measurements are truth. And it's a classic sort of homiletical preacher line, but it really is. It really, really is a good thing to remember. Tzohar, the window, the ark that you put yourself into is not one that is completely enclosed. It's got to have a window, it's got to have light coming in, you've got to be able to see out. You have to have clarity. You may be locked up somewhere and closed in against the storm waters around you, but you have to be able to look to the outside, and you have to look up to heaven, metaphorically, and see that God is in charge. There is a God. Tichalena, finish from above. We'll go into this in detail because it's really a literalist reading of the text. The text itself seems to be saying the roof sloped from its width and its height up to 1 cubit across. But Rabbi Mordechai Yosef is saying, no, this means you should only finish off the sides and the insides of the ark to within 1 cubit of the roof. Nothing is ever going to be completely finished. Nothing is ever perfect. Don't be a glutton. Don't eat all the food on the table. Leave something for someone else. The door. There has to be a door in the side, and we're again going to talk about this because there's history in the history of the rabbis of Ishbitz, and also there's boat architecture and engineering, which I know nothing about. The gentleman who was here last week or the week before, Mr. Van der Veen, he was in the Navy in South Africa and is a yacht enthusiast. We've got to get him to tell us what this really means. Door. The door is in the side, not in the normal place where you would expect it in a boat. And then the Tachtiyim, number 8, is how we should deal with our children. Noah had 3 children, and they are to be dealt with very, very differently. Okay? So we're going to take a look in the English and we're going to take a look in the Hebrew, because the Hebrew sometimes does have a bit more in terms of nuance. So if you're okay with the Hebrew, we're going to be reading from the very bottom of page number 1. And this is where we left off the last time. And I know I have this stuff here. Of course I have this stuff. I am obsessively organized. I have everything. I lose nothing. If I lose something, the world comes to an end. So, yeah, okay, here we go. All right, starting right at the beginning, and I've numbered them and given them letters because there are 8 things here. And he's going to start off with 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and they're all going to follow. So, Mordechai Yosef starts, this is in volume 1 of the Mehashiloach. In the older edition, it's page Yudchet, and it is Parshat Noach in volume 1 of the Mehashiloach. Inyan HaTeva, the Inyan, right? Word that we actually use in English today. What the ark is about, the subject matter. And he's going to be completely clear here. God gave advice and means of protection, Eitzah, advice, Haganah, protection, for Noach, Ad she'avru yemei haza'am, what he should do until the days of anger are past. Right? The time of the flood was a time where God was angry with the people of Israel, and the boiling waters of the seas there were, of course, killing off all of the people. And metaphorically, he is going to push this forward onto us. What we started off talking about, that waters and oceans are to do with lust and passion. How do we navigate the lusts and the passions and the desires that we have, right? We're all good people, we're all fully in control of ourselves, but how can we get to be a little bit more in control? How do we resist all the temptations that are out there? And in a broader sense, how do we get through life? How do we get from the beginning to the end safely and well? If you have not yet, you have not managed to purify yourself completely. You're not perfect yet, and that I think is absolutely every one of us. You can find advice here. Ech yastir atzmo. How you can hide yourself, camouflage yourself from all of the things that are going on around you. V'yagein be'ado, and protect yourself. Mikol ra hamitragesh lavo la'olam, from all the bad things that are happening out there in the world. Right? I'm going to take one moment and zip over to the sun. If we have a little bit of time at some point, it's very, very worthwhile with the great Hasidic rabbis to read them one generation after the next. Here in particular, Rabbi Mordechai Yosef doesn't have a lot in writing, but his son, Rabbi Yaakov, and the other sons and the grandsons and all of the students expand enormously. Right? So he says Noach hid himself in these three things. The truth is, though, and we're going to look at what those three things are: not being angry, and being calm. Be'emet ikar hastara hu kesha'adam omed neged Hashem yitbarach. The real place where you are hidden in is when you stand face to face with God. That's hiding from the world. But I'm missing exactly where I did this exactly the last time. Yeah, I read this the wrong way around. Teva ha'olam, the way of the world. How normal people do this. Ha'adam mastir atzmo b'tiradot. Busy stuff. You keep yourself hidden, and you think you're protecting yourself and isolating yourself from all the difficulties that you have in your life, from all the things that are going on around you in the world, when you keep busy, when your calendar is full. I've got something to do every single minute of every single day. I'm not worried about anything else. That's really totally false. And he continues to say, the only time that you are really hidden, protected, is when you're standing in front of God, when you have purified yourself through all of these 8 things. Okay? Don't fool yourself, people. Don't fool yourselves. We all do. We all do it, right? I'm very good at deceiving myself and say there's plenty of time to do things, and I'm really busy with this, and I can't do something that's incredibly important, right? V'chein amru Chazal. The rabbis have said, it's in the Tanah Devei Eliyahu Rabbah, it's one of the Midrashim, that if you see Yisurim ba'in alav, you see afflictions, you see difficulties coming your way, yarutz l'chadrei chadarim shel Torah, you should run to the inner chambers of Torah. And Torah will give you advice how to save yourself. Bad things are coming down the pike, right? Whether it's unemployment looming, whether it's an illness that's getting worse, whatever it is, a family situation that you're not dealing with by saying, I'm too busy to deal with it. Go into the inner chambers of Torah. Study Torah. This is not the same as a very classic line that we know, that you have a headache, study Torah. If you have a pain in your foot, study Torah. Right? He's saying here, everything difficult in life is going to have its answer in a Torah source. All right? And this is what he does. This is what Mordechai Yosef is doing here in the Mea Shilach, in this particular thing. He's saying, here's the story of Noah and the flood. This will save you. This will help you. And of course, if it doesn't, there's a whole bunch, half a dozen other different lists of things we can look at as well. Okay? V'inyan hateva. The whole thing about the ark, the very last line on page number 2, is what we learn in the Gemara, Masechet Pesachim, the whole tractate of the Talmud that talks about Passover. There are three types of people that God loves. Right? God loves all of us, of course. There's no question about that. But there are 3 types of people that God really likes. And the list goes like this. Misha Eino Ko'es, someone who never gets angry. Ve'eno Mishtaker, someone who does not get drunk. Misha Ma'avir al Midotav, and someone who rises above his character traits, your midot. I have a particular character trait to find the humor in everything. Let's take something that's relatively innocuous. I always see the funny side of things. And there are times when that is not appropriate, right? There are places and there are times where you shouldn't laugh. That's my challenge, right? Whether you have the challenge of being angry or a characteristic of being gluttonous or whatever it happens to be, this is one of the things that gets God to really love you. So he's going to explain. Misha Eino Ko'es. What does this mean? Someone who never gets angry is someone who does not manifest anger in any way. Most of the English translation here actually makes sense. You will notice there are mistakes. There's no doubt about it. Someone who doesn't get angry is someone who does not manifest anger. You can be angry and you can keep it in. She'eno mishtaker, not getting drunk, doesn't mean that you stay away from booze. It means that you have yishuv hada'at, that you have peace of mind, you're tranquil, you're calm, and you recognize that God is in charge. Makir, you recognize, you see, uma'amin, and you believe in the creator of the universe. This is an enormously fundamental point in the Torah of Ishbitz. God is in charge of absolutely everything, even the negative stuff. Right? One who rises above his character traits. This is shemastir haka'as. It's a mesir, not masir, mesir haka'as. He removes the anger even from the inside of his heart. That there is no ta'aromet, there is no resentment against your neighbor whatsoever. So number A is don't get angry, keep it in. Number 2, recognize who is in charge. And if you don't recognize who is in charge, it's like you're going through life drunk. And number C is, or letter C, get that anger out of your heart completely. Because if you realize that your neighbor is being a total you-know-what, well, there's a reason for him being a total you-know-what, because God wanted him to be like that, because maybe it's to do with your reaction. Or maybe it's to do something with him from previous incarnations or whatever it is. But this is God's plan. This is the way it's supposed to be. And then, once you get through those 2 stages, you can genuinely take anger and resentment out of your life completely. That's what we hope for anyway. Right? Now, the ark tells us about these 3. We're still in 1, 2, 3. Anger, don't get angry, remain calm, God is in charge, remove anger. Numbers 1, 2, and 3 are going to tell us this in terms of the ark of Noah. Gopher, make for yourself an ark of gopher wood. The word gopher wood occurs nowhere else in the entire Hebrew Bible. It's a hapax legomenon, wonderful word to remember. It is read and occurs only once in the Hebrew Bible. Gopher is, or gofrit, is either sulfur or pitch or tar. The meaning may be, and this is not entirely from Jewish traditional sources, but wood basted with pitch. So you take tar, pitch, whatever these substances are, soak the wood in it, cover the wood with it, and it makes it more waterproof and stormproof. Shelo tichos, don't become anger. Sulfur refers to anger, right? Sulfur and brimstone are what God rains down on the city of Sodom and Gomorrah, right? So a manifestation of God's anger. Don't let your anger show, because it's going to really totally ruin things in your entire life. Shetisgor et hakas, close up the anger, and don't become angry in real practical terms. Okay, kinim, decks, right? A cane is a net, is a nest, a can. Make decks, compartments, or rooms in the ark means you should not get drunk. How does he get that? It's a little bit odd in terms of our sort of understanding and use of the Hebrew and the English language. Kinim are rooms, and like one who has many rooms in his home, you must have tranquility of mind to know where each one is and what is its use. Right? If you have a very large house, unlike the homes we live here in Israel, we have itty-bitty little apartments, you live in a big palace somewhere, you need to have tranquility of mind to know what each room is and what it's all about. right? He makes an allusion to the tractate of the Mishnah called Kinim, which is talking about bird sacrifices. It's a very peculiar and very, very difficult and terse and complex piece of the Mishnah to learn. You need a very calm mind to get to the depths of Torah in it. You need enormous tranquility to just get through the complexities and the charts related to it. But in addition, we are told, very, very deep secrets hidden within this and very deep Torah. But you can't get this without being really calm and peaceful in mind. Okay? Then you shall cover the inside and the outside with pitch. There's room to say that in the first verse, where it's gopher and kofar, there might be a similarity and a change of letters. Again, these are not Jewish sources talking, because we don't want to talk about scribes made mistakes or changed things in the Torah itself. But gopher and kofar seem to be the same thing. And what they are doing is covering up the wood with tar. Which means, you shall rise above your characteristics, your natural character traits. Ki v'chafarta, and this is a little Hebrew bit here, it's letter C the second time around here. Kafarta is the same word as you shall atone. Kapara is to atone for sin, and kafar is to cover over. You ask God to atone for my sins, for your sins, by covering them over. Cover them over completely. Let there be no remnant of anger left in my heart. Okay? There isn't going to even be an impression of the anger left in the depth of your heart. Okay? So that's 1, 2, and 3. Number 4 is the shiurim, and that's where there's the obvious mistake on page number 1. The shiurim of the ark are the letters of the Hebrew word lashon without the vowel there, lamed, shin, nun. And I've spelled it out. The measurements of the ark spell out the word tongue. Length is 300 cubits, which is the letter shin. Width is 50 cubits, which is the letter nun. And height is 30 cubits, which is the letter lamed. You must not have within you a lying tongue. Don't naturally try to deceive people by telling them other than the truth. Right? I have intentionally left out a little bit of the Hebrew here. And if you really feel the urge, we can go back. But he is making it a tiny bit more complicated. Number 5. Make a window. Tzohar ta'aseh leteva. You shall make a window in the ark. Means you must know that everything comes from God. Sheteda ki hakol bidei shamayim. Everything is in the hand of God. Right? This is a very, very common expression. Right? We say hakol bidei shamayim. Everything is in God's hands. And the normal continuation of that is chutz miyirat shamayim. The Rabbi of Ishbitz is going to say, even including fear of heaven. The fact that you are a God-fearing, observant, religious person who would not imagine of doing anything wrong, that is because God wants you to be that way. And what the Rabbi of Ishbitz seems to say in many cases, and the conclusion does seem to be there, if you don't learn it properly and you don't learn it well, I have to emphasize this, that if you do something wrong, if you go into a store and steal a candy bar, right? Let's take very simple, safe examples. That is because God wanted me to steal that candy bar from the store. And there was a higher purpose for it. There's something that I have to learn from it. There's a lesson. It's not possible and conceivable that theft should occur in the world without God wanting it to happen. Right? So here we're not talking in these big philosophical terms. The Mea Shiloach was burned in the streets when it was first printed, so you've got an inkling of why. Some of the major characters in the Hebrew Bible are not just completely whitewashed and exonerated, but even praised for their misdeeds. All right? Take one of the Torah readings we've been looking at recently, Tzlofchad. Right? He has a really weird Hebrew English name. Right? He is supposed to be the man who was out there collecting sticks on the Sabbath, and his daughters get the inheritance or don't get the inheritance, and there's that whole discussion right at the end of the book of Numbers, Sefer Bamidbar. The Rabbi of Ishbitz says he was out there doing that intentionally to clarify the law regarding gathering sticks on the Sabbath.
He's not the first one that says.
He's not the first one that says this, but that's one of his big and obvious ones, and he's got a bunch of them, right? So this is not the sort of thing that you want people to hear, that you should go out and you should test the law. Because, well, maybe through your breaking the law and being executed for it, or being struck by a lightning bolt or whatever, or getting a terrible bad name throughout all of history, you've clarified something. You've brought a new piece of law, a piece of wisdom into the world.
Nobody knew the way you'd be killed for collecting sticks. Is that what the problem?
Something like that, yeah. It's a subject for another day, but the basic overall point is he looks at everyone as being good and everything as being good. And the good side of that for us is it's okay to make mistakes. The mistakes that you make, the failings that you have are part of the plan. I'm trying to stay sober. I'm trying to stay away from eating ice cream. I'm trying to do things. But every time I fall back and do the negative and the bad things, it's not a terrible reflection upon myself. I'm not a failure. It's part of the process. And that can be good to know. That can be very good to know. This doesn't work for everybody. This sort of worldview and the way of living doesn't work for everybody. But it works for a lot of people. And I find my head is in the Torah of Ishbitz a lot, to the point where I'm collecting pretty much every one of the students and every one of the next generations. There's an enormous amount of valuable stuff here. Okay? The window, the Tzohar is either an actual window, or it is some sort of magical stone, or maybe it's a real type of stone that reflected and refracted the light back into the ark. Hainu behirut v'yedi'ah. The Tzohar refers to clarity and knowledge. You know there is a God. You know everything happening comes from God. You know the other person's success and your relative failure comes from God. It's okay. It's not the end of the world, right? Here's the one we explained already clearly before. The translation, which I don't have in front of me, from the classic art scroll, is that the roof tapered upwards, and it was 1 cubit wide or long at that particular point at the very top. A sloping roof, it makes sense. And if you've seen drawings or pictures of the ark, that's what it looks like. He is reading it very literally, the El Amma, to a measurement of 1 cubit, you shall finish it from above. Shetitzamtzeim b'chol kablot hashpa'ah. You must restrain yourself. You must hold yourself back in everything that you receive from above. Right? It's not just all the food on the table. You should hold yourself back from eating it. But everything good that God gives you, don't take it all. Share. Realize you're not meant to be a glutton. Upetach hateva b'tzidat hasim. Put the entrance of the door of the ark in the side. The door of the ark in the side, you shall put it. And he's bringing a verse from Psalms, seek peace and pursue it. And the Midrash on that particular verse of Psalm says, what's the difference between seeking peace and pursuing peace? Seek, bakesh, go out and look for peace, mimekomecha, in your place where you are and where you live, radfehu, and run after it somewhere else. So what does this mean? Hainu, mitzidecha, from your point of view, umi kochacha, and from your personal strength and effort. There should be nothing holding you back from making peace with someone else. From your point of view, and in terms of what energy and what abilities you have been given by God, you should be able to make peace with every other human being that you meet. Ach gam lirdof achar chavero, but to chase after a friend. He says specifically chavero, your friend, but I think he means a friend. To chase after someone, lekarev et atzmo lechavero, to get close to your friend. Gam zot ein mehatzorach. This, unfortunately or fortunately, is not something that is absolutely necessary to do. You do not have to chase after a friend to get close to him. If your friend comes to you, if he passes by your house, if you're sitting together with him in a shul, in a school, in a classroom, whatever, yeah, make friends. Do you have to really run after everybody to make shalom with them? Why is this? Ki b'chol davar nimtza safek. There's a doubt about absolutely everything. Ki yuchal liyot shezeh einu ra'ui lavo al beitecha. Not the sort of politically correct expression we're used to saying. I'm going to translate this very literally. Yuchal liyot, it is quite possible that this person is not appropriate to come into your house. Right? Do you have to make peace with everyone? Do you have to invite everybody into your home? Does everyone have to be your friend? And the answer here, he says, is no. Still, do not push him away. And this is what it means, put the door in the side. V'lo bepirsum, not publicly, not obviously. I'm reading this in terms of my total lack of knowledge of boats. I don't like boats. I don't like traveling by sea. But the way to get onto a boat is through the top deck. And that's obvious. You put the gangplank out, you walk over it, there you go. And a door in the side of a boat is not as common. So it's not as open and as obvious to everyone.
Sink.
Right, right. So I assume the door is above the waterline, but it's not where you expect it to be. And the picture that he's giving you, I think, is that don't put a sign over your front door saying, all are welcome. Because there are some people who you really shouldn't welcome into your house. Maybe they're not going to be a good influence on your children. Maybe they'll just take up too much of your time, because your time is more valuable to give teaching Torah classes, visiting people in the hospitals, whatever it is.
What about Abraham?
Yeah, it's a contradiction. This is a difficult one. It is a politically incorrect one. It completely goes against Abraham and his tent, right? Which is the midrash that we all know very, very well. Abraham had a tent with a door in every single side.
Actually, he also ran out to greet them.
And he ran out to greet them as well.
It's not like he just let anybody in. And he washed their feet first because of the dust of idol worship for these Bedouins. So
right.
There is a lesson, even though he had his door open, or even before animals. I think he was careful who he let in.
Yeah, it's not an easy one. It's not an easy one to swallow, and it's an issue that the Rebbes of Ishbitz have had from the very beginning, and it was a split in the second generations of these rabbis. Rabbi Mordechai Yosef welcomed everyone into his Beit Midrash, into his study hall. The Beit Yaakov, the better-known student and son, similarly. The other son, the Neot Deshe, took a group of his closest students and said, no, we got to study all by ourselves. We want to have our elite group. And then next generation switched around. And it is an argument. It is an argument. Who should we be working on? Are we supposed to be working on improving ourselves? Or is it more important that we go out and work and help other people? And it's a balance that we try to strike. And those of us who are involved in teaching Torah, we have to strike that sort of balance somehow or other.
Okay, but are you talking about a house or about a big midrash? Are they the same? Because that machlokes goes all the way back to the time of the Tanaim.
Right.
A huge argument. Should
Right.
we open up the doors for anybody coming to learn, or should it only be the elite? And, it went back and forth for a while as well.
Right. Here he's putting it in the simplest of terms.
Oh.
The simplest of terms. Your home, you. You can't invite everybody in, because there are people who just take and take and take, and you'll have nothing left for yourself or for other people. There are people who make more than a nuisance of themselves, right? The more important point, I think, perhaps, is to think about this. What is our priority? What is our priority? Is our priority large numbers? Is our priority making everybody happy? Is our priority being everyone is my friend? That's not possible in life, right? Here in this particular paragraph, this page and a half or so of text, he's really very, very straightforward, giving you advice for you. And the other stuff is hanging there in the background, and it really can't go like unreported.
My wife always reminds us, we need borders, right? It can't be total hefker.
Yeah.
We need borders.
Right. Absolutely. This is one of the important lessons of life.
Could be in a big midrash. You don't need that. But when you talk about your own home, so it's a different.
Yeah, maybe it's a different set of borders. Right. And there are people who have their home open all the time, day and night, and there are people who need to have private time, and you need to recharge your batteries. Think about this sort of stuff. That's what he's telling you. All right. This is number 7. That takes us into number 8. Oh my. Okay, so the text tells us that God says to Noach, make lower decks in the ark. Tachtiyim shniyim ushlishim ta'aseha. You shall make tachtiyim, a bottom deck, shniyim, a second deck, ushlishim, a third deck. All right, and I assume a top deck as well. What is this all about? This is about how you deal with your children. All right, so we got to take this a little bit slowly. Right, and last time we looked at the misdeeds of Noach's sons. Otherwise, we don't know very much about these guys. We see them doing something pretty nasty, or something at least reprehensible. Right? Hainu, what does this mean? Shenitztaveh Noach. God gave a commandment to Noah. Right? He's not talking about eitzot here, or eitzah, or advice, but commandment. God told Noah as an order, Leida ech leitnaheg im shalosh banav. God commanded Noah to know how to act with each of his 3 children. B'chol echad lefi madregato. Each one of them according to his own level. Right? Ham is the bad guy in the story. Right? You remember back to our graphic depiction of what Ham did or didn't do. He at least made fun of and looked at and mocked his naked, drunk old man. Right? So Ham is referred to as Tachtiim. Shetdaber imo rak lifnim. That you should only speak to him lifnim, within. I haven't really got a good handle on what he means by that. And there may very well be something in the next generations, but don't have too much publicly to do with Ham. Don't talk to him within limits only.
Does that mean inferior or lower?
Lower, and I think inferior, or else at a lower level. Yeah. That's what I'm thinking. That's what I'm thinking. If you see the other ones, that he doesn't tell you that much more else. With Yafet, Shniyim.
What does that mean?
Seconds. Vim Shem, Shlishim. And with Shem, you shall speak to him thirds.
It could be,
He's going to tell you exactly what Shlishim means.
but Lifnim can also mean first.
That's true. That is true. Talk to him first.
I don't know, I didn't read the rest of the context, I don't know what.
This is all there is. This is literally all there is with it. With regard to Shem, who is of course the good son, right? Shetidaber imo me'omek halev. You shall speak to him from the depths of the heart. V'chol sodotecha tigalelo, and you shall reveal all your secrets or your secret wisdom to him. So, going back from that, with the basic thought that Shem is the good son and gets all the secret wisdom, all the wisdom of Torah, all the life experience of the father, and Yafet gets something in the middle, and Cham gets something of a lower level. It would be nice if he had spelled this out perfectly and clearly for us. But this is one of the unfortunate things. We don't have an enormous amount more on this. Don't treat your children equally. Oh my God. You know? That is not something that we normally say at all. On the other hand, recognize that your children are very different from each other, right? I have 2 children, they have nothing whatsoever in common, right? Absolutely nothing. And they're, obviously related. They're both pieces of each of us, of their parents, but in terms of life and mind and way they think, no one would recognize them as being brother and sister. What were these 3 like? We only have this one story where after the ark Noah gets drunk and something happens, and it looks like Shem initiates the good and making the right out of it. Yafet goes along with that, and Ham is the one who's sitting there laughing at the drunken father. Right? And there are worse and more unpleasant readings of this whole text. He got to that stage, right? He's not being, but then again, the instructions are before he goes into the ark, whereas the events are after the ark, right? It's open to interpretation and open to reading, and I haven't yet found anyone in any of the descendants or the students that are talking about this and clarifying it completely. If I do, I will get back to you. But there's a lot of material to read through, right? Now he's gonna sum up. And he's gonna say something quite radical that you may or may not like, but take it or leave it. All of this was advice to Noah before he became perfect. How he should conceal himself, how he should withdraw. Maybe lastir et atzmo, to conceal himself, should better be translated how he should withdraw into himself, how he should withdraw into a closed off environment and work on improving himself. Right? Because he's going to bring this to an ultimate conclusion with the ark being a cruise where you are bombarded with self-help speakers. Right? Stephen Covey cruises with you for an enormous fee. Right? The ark is something to close yourself up into and to study yourself, read Torah like this, meditate, do hitbodedut, talk to God. Maybe that's what the picture is that we're getting to. That
Isolate yourself.
isolate yourself, withdraw yourself from the world so you can go out back into the world, right? In this branch of Chassidut, there is no complete withdrawal from the world. The physical world is there to be enjoyed, to be used. It's given to you by God. But maybe you need time alone. Maybe you need to go off on a cruise by yourself, either a literal or a metaphorical one, right? Lock yourself up in your house for a few days and rethink things. And look at this picture. Look at this list of 8 things and go through the checklist. Spend time on each of them. Right? How he will conceal himself. Ki miyad kishiyatza min hateva, because after he left the ark, okay, start again. Ki miyad, immediately after, when he left the ark, she'az haya hashlamato, the period of time he was in the ark was his period of completion, of perfection of himself. Az asa hefech me'elu hadvarim. Then he did the exact opposite of all of these things. Right? This is like the difficult bit now. Right? You thought you were just getting a list of things. Now, the list of things is, once you go through this list, then you perfect yourself, then you can leave your ark, and then you can go out and do them. Kemoshe Katuv, as the verses tell us, Vayesh Noach drank, he got drunk. Vayishkar, right? He got drunk and he was angry. V'lo avar al midotav, and he did not rise above his characteristics. Going back to the very first 3 core things. Don't get drunk, don't get angry, and rise above your character traits are the things that God wants and loves in a human being. When Noach left the ark, he got drunk, got angry, and indulged his anger, right?
What did he get angry about?
The verse, as it's translated in English, says Noach was drunk and he was lying naked in his tent, and Ham, the son, looked at him and mocked him.
Angry after. He didn't
And
get angry.
once he sobers up and realizes what happened, he is angry with Ham, the bad son, and curses him. Right? So he shows his anger, and he retains the anger in his heart by giving him a detailed curse that goes on to his next generations as well, and then blesses the other 2 sons. Makes Ham into being a slave to the other guys and their descendants, right? So this is what we started out with, saying these are the things you should not do. And through doing all of these things and not getting drunk, not getting angry, rising above your character, keeping your tongue, etc., 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 you get to a place not just where you're perfected, but where you're permitted to get angry, you're permitted to get drunk, and you're permitted to keep anger in your heart. Uh-oh. What have we done here, folks? What have we done? Last line, Kishe Adam Nishlam, when a person has achieved perfection, when you've completely worked out your character traits, when you've worked on yourself long and hard, Az mutar lehit pashet. This is again one of these key words that they keep using. Lehit pashet is to spread out. And generally, when the Rabbi of Ishbit says this, he's saying you're allowed to let yourself go. And if you have complete and absolute control over your anger, you're an angry person by nature, right? I hope none of us are. But let's say you're a very angry person by nature. You have a hair trigger, whatever the term is. Very easily you get ticked off, and you shout and scream. And you spend time working on yourself, and you withdraw into yourself, and you go to a retreat, and you come to Torah classes, and you get yourself a Rabbi and an advisor, and you see a psychiatrist, right? And you work on it, and you finally come to the day where the psychiatrist says, I don't need you to come back anymore, you're fine. And you don't fly off the handle every minute, you really don't. Then there are occasions where you are not just allowed to, but you should become angry. And there are people and there are occasions where you should retain anger. Ham is the son of Noach. And Noach, for whatever his reasons, got blind drunk, hanging out in his birthday suit, passes out. He is right to have anger against Ham and to say bad things to him and even to retain the anger. He has the ability to use anger as a tool once it becomes under his control. It's not a very so popular way of looking at things today. Maybe with small children we can control them a little bit with, fake anger. Perhaps that's a reasonable term.
To show it, not really.
Not really fake.
But to keep it in your mind that my kid did this rotten thing at age 3, and I got to keep that anger here ready to use at age 4, at age 5, at age 6. Right? So it's not a perfectly formatted and formulated set, but it does give you a pretty decent set of guidelines, I think anyway. And the story of Noah and the flood is one that we love. It's a kid's story. It's happy, despite the nasty little bit and the X-rated stuff at the end. But it does speak to us very directly about navigating the difficult waters of life. So hopefully you will take this home with you and study this a little bit. We are continuing next week, I presume. And what I think I want to do next week is, again, stay with the Mei HaShiloach because it's relatively easy text to read. And I've already translated some of this. And if you feel the urge, you can, from Amazon, get the actual whole translation of the book. And we'll talk about a list of 12 things to do for each of the months of the year.
Did you say the Zohar?
This is the Mei HaShiloach. Waters of the Siloam Pool. I forget what the book it's called. It's by Rabbi Bezalel Edwards, and he's translated it into English, and I think it's called Still Waters or Deep Waters. But Rabbi Edwards has one book on Amazon, and that's worth getting. Plus, he's a friend of ours, so we like to support people we know. Yeah. But we will get into the issue of what is the power that there is in the month of the year and what we should focus on each month. So a different sort of approach. Yeah. It's a different approach altogether. And that'll bring us up to Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur stuff, what we should be doing in the month of Av, what we should do in the month of Elul, and then what Tishrei is about. And that's it.